There are moments in a franchise's life where everything stops: the noise, the excuses, the blind hope, and you realize the next decision will define the next decade. For the Falcons, that moment is right now. Atlanta stands at a crossroads again. A tired fan base. A franchise drifting without a pulse. A roster begging for anyone, to turn the chaos into direction. And in front of them lies a decision so big that the wrong move could bury this team for years, but the right one could finally pull them out of the darkness. Every offseason brings a list of names, rumors, predictions. But this year feels different, colder, heavier. Because these candidates aren't just potential hires. They're the lifeline of a franchise that has been wandering without identity for far too long. The early whispers around the league have already begun. Coordinators rising. Reputations forming. Some coaches shaping defenses that suffocate opponents, others sculpting offenses that burn through scoreboards. And as the dust settles, a handful of names begin to emerge from the haze, not stars, not legends, but possible answers. And this is where the Falcons' reality becomes painfully clear: the roster isn't the enemy. The leadership is. This team has pieces, real pieces. A defense that can punch, claw, fight. Skill players who can take over games. An offensive line that, on the right day, can hold its ground. But what they don't have is direction. What they don't have is identity. What they don't have is a voice strong enough to steady the storm. That's why this coaching search matters more than any in recent memory. From the long list of candidates drifting across the league chatter, only a few truly stand out, the ones who carry not just schemes, but presence. Men who could step into this fractured building and change something deeper than playbooks. One of those names rises above the rest: Joe Brady. A coach who has tasted pressure and somehow turned it into results. A coach who has been part of championship DNA. A coach who has walked into chaotic situations and walked out with top-tier offenses. He's been called a spark. He's been called a genius. He's also been called inexperienced and proven risky. And that's the truth Atlanta can't ignore. Brady has never carried the weight of an entire NFL franchise on his shoulders. And Falcons fans know the fear of first-time head coach better than most. They've lived through promise that never materialized. They've seen potential collapse under the glare of expectations. And the other question won't go away either: is Joe Brady the engine behind Buffalo's attack? Or is he simply riding the raw power of Josh Allen? That uncertainty is real. But so is this: if the Falcons pick the right leader now, everything changes. If they pick the wrong one, they'll be right back where they've always been, searching, rebuilding, hoping. This is the moment. This is the decision. And everything depends on it. The danger with offensive masterminds is simple: when you've spent years standing beside a superstar quarterback, it becomes impossible to tell where the genius ends and the talent begins. That uncertainty haunts every franchise desperate for a spark. Joe Brady knows that shadow well. Coaches who've worked with Hall of Fame-level quarterbacks always carry a question mark: are they brilliant, or just lucky enough to ride shotgun next to greatness? But here's the truth that Atlanta can't afford to ignore: if Brady walked into Flowery Branch tomorrow and installed one of his aggressive, fearless systems, this offense could finally breathe again. The Falcons wouldn't limp to 20 points. They'd attack. They'd dictate. They'd force defenses into panic. 30 points per game wouldn't be a dream. It would be the expectation. And the best part? He wouldn't need to rebuild the defense. He wouldn't need 3 years of patience. He wouldn't need miracles. All he'd need is a lead, a rhythm, and the keys to an offense starving for identity. That alone makes him a legitimate candidate to reshape the franchise. But he's not the only one who can change Atlanta's future. Coach candidate number 2: Robert Saleh. The stabilizers say his name, and the room changes. Robert Saleh carries something Atlanta hasn't felt in years: presence. People are quick to point to what happened in New York, but that wasn't coaching failure, that was an organizational earthquake. Saleh was handed chaos and expected to build a palace. No man survives that. But drop him into Atlanta? That's different. That's controlled. That's stable. Saleh brings what this locker room is starving for: discipline, respect, structure, a defensive identity carved from steel. And here's the secret no one talks about: if Saleh steps in as head coach, there's a real chance the Falcons keep the one man who already knows this defense inside and out, the current defensive coordinator. Instant continuity. No overhaul. No confusion. No lost season learning a new system. The offense? Saleh has roots in the Shanahan coaching tree, and that tree grows offensive savants like wildfire. He'd find someone sharp, someone modern, someone who could turn this stale unit into something dangerous. Players love him. Coaches trust him. A fractured locker room would not just listen, it would follow. Coach candidate number 3, Vance Joseph, the enforcer. This one is different. This one is intriguing. This one is dangerous. Because Vance Joseph doesn't just run a defense, he unleashes one. Look at Denver's defense right now. It's violent, precise, disruptive. A swarm of bodies exploding from every angle, suffocating offenses before they even get their bearings. The kind of defense that wins games by sheer force. Now imagine that mentality injected into Atlanta. The Falcons already have talent. They already have speed. They already have discipline. But under Joseph? This defense could turn into something terrifying: a top 3 unit with swagger, intimidation, and a reputation that echoes across stadiums. A true no-fly zone. A defense opponents fear before they even step onto the field. But with Joseph, there's one concern lingering in the shadows, waiting to be acknowledged. And that's where everything gets complicated. But with Vance Joseph, the question that hangs in the air is the one nobody wants to say out loud: can he manage the entire operation? Defense? No problem. He can build a wall of steel and fury. But running an entire franchise is different. It's not just calling blitzes or crafting schemes. It's choosing the right offensive voice. It's balancing personalities. It's stitching every piece of the roster together into something that moves like a single organism. And in Denver, he doesn't carry that burden, Sean Payton does. Joseph controls the violence, but not the architecture. That's the gamble. If Atlanta hands him the keys, they're trusting him to build an offense he doesn't personally command. They're trusting him to find the right coordinator, the right teacher, the right visionary to elevate a unit that has been lost for years. But if you want identity? If you want physicality? If you want a defense that sets the tone and dares opponents to breathe? Vance Joseph brings that in every step he takes. Final thoughts: the future hangs in the balance. So yes, Brady, Saleh, Joseph. 3 names that could reshape everything in Atlanta. 3 men who bring 3 entirely different visions for what this franchise could become. A creator. A stabilizer. An enforcer. And yet, there's a storm brewing behind all of this. Word is spreading, whispers, rumors, conversations behind closed doors, that Raheem Morris still believes the owner stands firmly behind him. That he feels comfortable. Protected. Secure. If that's true, it means only one thing: nobody truly knows where this franchise is going. Not the players. Not the coaches. Not the fans. Not even the league. Atlanta stands at a fork in the road. One direction leads to rebirth. The other leads to another lost decade. This decision, this single hire, or refusal to make one, will define everything. The tone. The culture. The identity. The next 10 years of football in this city. No pressure, but the future of the Atlanta Falcons is about to be written in permanent ink.